It's 10 a.m. and we'll call the meeting to order and we'll have a roll call.
Brown,
Brown here.
Froz,
Fraz here.
Copy, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez,
Sanchez here.
Allen, Kenyon.
Here. We have on here the approval of the minutes for November 18th. Would anybody like to move that?
Unanimous approval? by
Yes,
Leonard?
Bill Leonard asked for unanimous approval. Saying no, if they sent no dissension, we'll approve it. Is there any public comment? Nobody signed up for public comment. Talk to our partners. Mr. Steve Arnold from the Kane County Farm Bureau.
Good morning, everyone. Pleased to be here. Just a few things that I want to report on before I get to the things that I handed out to you. I believe all of the committee members are now have a complimentary professional membership to the Kane County Farm Bureau and should have received our January Kane County Farmer. We had some details in there, first of all, about a book club conversation that the Illinois Farm Bureau started this week, and they kicked that off on Tuesday of this week. But we also talked a little bit about the Illinois Farm Bureau's annual meeting in Chicago, where delegates around the state get together to vote on Farm Bureau policy for 2022 on local, state, national, and international issues. We reported in there about the fact that our organization won what the Illinois Farm Bureau calls a New Horizons Award at that convention. It's the fourth time they've given it away. We're very pleased to say we won it 3 of those 4 times. And it was for a pollinator rain garden that the County of Kane, through the Water Resources Department, with assistance from Forest Preserve District staff, Soil and Water Conservation District, the Nature Conservancy, and others helped us install in 2020. 2020 was a year of COVID, so we had virtual conventions, but that project also won what is called a County Activities of Excellence Award from the American Farm Bureau Federation. They gave 12 of those awards away in 2020. Unfortunately, with a virtual 2021 convention, we weren't able to display that and talk to members around the country. But we did have the opportunity at the 2022 annual meeting that was just completed a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta. And we have a short video from that convention if Mr. Peters could cue that up. And this is going to have our staff members, Liz Polavin, our membership coordinator, and Kelsey Miller, our development and ag literacy coordinator.
Don't forget to mention, Stephen, that it's a kickoff time to apply for scholarships. See this? Free shirt. Oh, we have to have.
Copy's present. Mr. Chairman, Kenyon, did you start the meeting?
Yes, we did.
Copy's present. Sorry for I'm late.
Is anything happening now?
We're we're having we're having a little video from the Farm Bureau when they were at the national meeting from one
Okay,
of
great.
our member people, ladies.
Good.
We
Thank
had
you.
an award for our pollinator garden.
Cool, cool.
We are extremely excited that we were nominated for this. It came as a complete surprise that something so small in our community could have such a big impact on all the communities across the state. I mean, it's a really wonderful exhibit, something that can contribute to the agriculture and our pollinators and the monarch butterflies. So we're really, really excited and honored to be part of this.
We did this one a little differently. You know, a lot of pollinator plants, you're broadcasting a lot of seed. Since this was right out in public on a public road, we actually tried to do a designed garden. And then this year, we will actually expand it. It started off as about a 700 or 800 square foot rain garden. This year we're going to expand it into the shape of Illinois, make it about a 4,000 square foot rain garden where we can put prairie plants, pollinator plants, and wetland plants. So kind of use it as a demonstration for the public, use it for the Ag in the Classroom program.
Really, it's a lot of involvement with a lot of different hands. We like to work with our county and our local government. We also like to work with our extension offices. So it's a lot of different people and a lot of different areas that pull this together.
So that's a really brief video, and I think it was one of 4 or 5 interviews that we did at the convention. But to the convention growers, what we tried to impress upon them was the reason behind this. The reason we undertook this project in the first place was the county board's action, and I can't remember now if it goes back to 2018 or 2019, to approve amendments to the stormwater management ordinance that give farmers the opportunity to install water quality benefits in lieu of stormwater detention on farms. And we just think that that's kind of a new paradigm in stormwater management in terms of recognizing that there are appropriate situations to try to control runoff and try to control the quantity of water. Farmland and improvements on farmland in particular are one of those situations where there's an opportunity to improve water quality. And it probably makes more sense to do that in areas where you have much more surface area, much more land area to deal with the runoff than it is to try to deal with the quantity by enforcing stormwater detention requirements. So we think the county took a unique approach. We installed the pollinator rain garden for public education about improving the environment, but also to celebrate that change by the county government and to encourage those kind of practices on farms. As I said in that video, our plan this year is to expand that pollinator rain garden to make it more of a landscape feature. And we're going to be coming back to the Water Resources Department, to the Soil and Water Conservation District, the Nature Conservancy, and other partners in an effort to do that, to make it more of a not only a larger environmental benefit, but a larger public demonstration area for some of those practices. 3 other things I want to report on real quickly. One is that our not-for-profit foundation is accepting scholarship applications through February 15th. We give away 15 to 25 scholarships every year in 9 different categories. We've communicated that with state universities and community colleges and high schools in the area. And we hope to receive a number of applications for those college scholarships by the 15th of this month. And then I handed out 2 items to committee members this morning. Then I don't know what I did with them. The first is, well, we'll go in calendar order. The first is just an announcement about a February webinar by the Chicago Farmers. The Chicago Farmers is a membership organization for education and fellowship. On Monday, February 14th, they're doing a webinar on the science of carbon storage in soils, featuring 2 professors from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It's a topic that gets a lot of press in the farm press, something that we can all learn more about. We have signed up for this webinar, so it will be available for viewing at our office if anybody wants to come by the King County Farm Bureau on Monday the 14th and watch it. You're more than welcome to. And the second is an agenda for our organization's 2022 Governmental Affairs Leadership Conference, which happens the next day, Tuesday, February 15th in Springfield. A number of general and breakout sessions. Our Governmental Affairs Leadership Conference always includes a statewide legislative reception where we will invite the constitutional officers and the state senators and state representatives to come in and visit with our members. And again, as professional members of the Farm Bureau, this is a conference that the Kane County Farm Bureau will pay the registration for any county board member, any member of the Agriculture Committee who's also a professional member of the Farm Bureau if they would like to attend. So if you're interested in that, feel free to contact me. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Steve Arnold?
Question,
I heard on
Kobe.
the radio this morning that in the federal level that they've approved $725 or $35 million for upgrade on one of the locks and dams on the river. What's the big deal about this? We've been asking for this for 25 years. Because the dams, the locks were built 50 years ago or more. But Senator Durbin and Cheryl Brustos want to work to get this passed. And they always make it sound like it's a struggle, but he gets the job done. So he was helping the U.S. Farm Bureau get that in. Sir?
Two other things I'd like to add. The first is a thanks to the county Environmental Water Resources Department for continuing to put out this recycling guide. They deliver multiple copies to us every year, and it's one of the county resources that we get a lot of questions on. So this is very helpful in our office when members call about what to do with tires and batteries and any number of things. The second is going back to the American Farm Bureau Federation annual meeting in Atlanta. One of the resolutions that was approved by delegates to the AFBF was a change or maybe just a better definition of urban agriculture. And you may recall that that's a resolution that came from our farmer friends at the Cook County Farm Bureau. And I believe we brought that definition into the Ag Committee in June or July of this year. That resolution was approved by the Illinois Farm Bureau's voting delegates in December and then approved by the American Farm Bureau Federation delegates in January. And I point to that, first of all, because it's kind of the work that this committee does, but it's also, I think, a testament to how our policy development system works with ideas coming up from the grassroots and getting debated at the local, state, and national level.
Thank you. We're emerging into the big world. Got to recognize the good done by many other people. And we're going to do that later on with Natasha, but let's go, is it Northern Illinois Food Bank online?
Kopi, please, question.
Yes, Tommy?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I brought it up on a couple occasions in regards to right to repair, and I hate to see that fall off the radar. And if we could hear the Farm Bureau's position on that, and if there is any activity on that front. Perfect example. I'm working on some fuel pumps right now. The diesel fuel does not sustain its integrity over a long period of time, so it begins to separate. So it ruins the pumps. You got to take them apart and rebuild them. And if it wasn't for the Chinese ignoring patent rights and patent infringements, I wouldn't be able to get half of the parts in a timely manner. And not to mention the process to rebuild them. And I watched some YouTubes on regards to right to repair, and there's these young kids that actually know how to diagnose a cell phone and a smartphone, and they can rebuild them, and then point out the problems on why some of them are designed to not be able to be maintained in the field and or personally. And I think it's a serious issue. It does not comply with an American standard of old, where we create, invent, repair, and persevere. And we're depending on foreign governments and trade laws to allow us to repair our own equipment. And in regards to robotics, we have robotics emerging in the agriculture business. John Deere and DeKalb has got a robotic tractor that tills the fields and plants the fields without an operator. And how do you repair that? Can we repair it? And it's an issue. And I would like to. Oh, and then one more thing. It's very interesting. Bought a robot for one of the grandkids for Christmas, and built in China, of course. And it's got a certain dialogue programmed into it, and by and by it comes up with this discussion about growing food. And it says at the end of the little dissertation, it says the robot says the farmer is dead. So what do you think of that? Just a side note. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
Tommy, you've got to reprogram that robot. What Tom's talking about is the big ag people don't want farmers to work on some of the more sophisticated parts of their machinery. That would be the green folks or John Deere. And if we own the property, we should be able to fix it. But they say, well, if you touch it, then all your warranties are no good. Yes. So that's just a little struggle we have. That's big money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Bates, please. This is a big deal in sustainability. We don't want to be throwing things into the landfill every time they break. So, Mr. Kopi, as always, you've come up with some incredibly good ideas. And let's take this to the Energy and Environmental Committee also. Thank you.
We have friends there, I think. Anything else? And now we'd like to introduce Natasha Lehr from Esther's Place. You've got, there, take the mask off, and you can, is that where you're going? Oh, you're going to do that. Say a little about yourself.
Yeah.
How long you've been doing what you're doing, and what do you do?
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Natasha Lehr Lewis in Big Rock with Esther's Place. And I do have a quick little video I kind of wanted to share, just to share what we're doing, and also want to give you a little feedback on some of the ways that we've worked on promoting agriculture from our end of animals, sheep, livestock, that kind of thing. So is it ready to go?
Natasha, when did you start doing this?
All right, well, we have been at this for about 16 years. We moved out from the suburbs to Big Rock and got a couple sheep, and that kind of began the whole adventure. Let me get this going here. Okay. There we go. So yeah, we originally started in 2006. Okay, can you hear me now? We started in 2006. I fell into the fiber arts just, as a kid, getting into knitting and all that kind of thing. Really had a passion for it, and we started raising sheep. We started out with just 2 sheep, and as we got into the sheep industry, noticed that the price of wool and the just the market for it wasn't really there. But yet, if you went into a yarn store or something like that, you were getting a lot more for the fiber than what you were getting in the market and what the sheep shearers were paying. So we wanted to kind of remedy that, and we actually ended up with just putting our passion into a USDA value-added producer grant that we applied for, and we're fortunate enough to get to kind of jumpstart the business. Our premise was to combine art and agriculture and education. And so we really wanted to be able to teach people how to use the fiber and thus kind of create a market for it. And so that's what we started back in 2006. We got a matching grant from the Value Added Producer grant program, for which we're really grateful, and worked with the Farm Bureau and other people in the area as we got our recommendation letters and feasibility studies and all that kind of thing started up. So I was actually 18 when I started the shop. We've now been open 16 years, believe it or not. So that's pretty exciting. And one of the things that we really try to do is, create a market for the fiber and really help people to hear the stories behind the product. And you don't just pick up a skein of yarn or a ball of wool and you're like, oh, this is from some nameless sheep somewhere. We want to be able to kind of trace it back and everything like that. So everything is US grown, US processed, and most of it is actually dyed right in-house by us, which is kind of exciting. So our flock of sheep, we actually have about 20 sheep on our farm. We do a lot of agritourism, people coming in and, getting to meet the sheep and actually see how it's all raised and really, drive home the importance of keeping agriculture local and keeping it accessible and keeping it educational for, a wide range of ages. I have everything from, preschool groups that come on a rotating bi-weekly basis to come to the farm, to senior groups from all over the Chicagoland area. So it's really exciting for them to actually see, from the source and know the whole process that it goes through. So we actually do, like I said, a lot of the dyeing, everything in-house. We work with a mill in Michigan, so we try to keep our dollars right here in the Midwest and everything like that. They've been a family-owned business for over 100 years, so it's really exciting and also really valuable to be able to work with people who know the industry and can help partner with us. We buy wool from producers in the area as well as across the Midwest, and it's really cool to be able to see their businesses flourish because of the support that we're providing them, and we're able to give them a lot more than just what the market gives. Basically, if you're just selling your wool on the market, you're only getting a couple of dollars per sheep, which doesn't even really cover the cost of shearing. And so it really becomes a problem to, the sustainability, economic sustainability of the flock. And so by finding, other outlets for the fiber, we've taken one producer and actually helped her to really grow a thriving wool business. And now she's got this great reputation in the community. So very exciting to see that happen. So part of our education that we do is creating kits. We have lots of different really accessible things for people who have never ever done anything with fiber before. We do classes, both virtual and in person. And just trying to really help people of all age groups know how to use the fiber. And I'm not just talking knitting, spinning, but also weaving and felting, which is really one of the big things that we do. So this is a little video I thought you'd enjoy kind of seeing. One of our main things that we do is needle felting. And this is something that like anybody can do. Doesn't involve any sewing. You're using a special needle that has like tiny notches that tangle the fibers together. And don't you love time-lapse videos? I think they're so fun. So this is just a quick little project that was really kind of cool. And so using our wool in particular and other wools that are kind of medium grade that don't have a huge marketability, they're not going to be something that people want to have made into like a soft yarn for a scarf or anything. These wools actually work really, really well for needle felting. And it's just a great kind of fit because we take a product that doesn't have a huge market and we pair it with a huge market of crafting novices. And so it's just a perfect fit together. So we do these kits, we have video tutorials that we film and everything like that. But the needle felting has just been a really, really dynamic sector for us in terms of education. So with COVID, of course, we've had to all pivot. Our location in Big Rock is, a beautiful Victorian house. We host classes. And of course, with COVID, we had to kind of rethink how we did things. I do a lot of community outreach and teaching like with libraries and different schools and things like that. So we've actually turned a lot of our things into virtual platforms, which has been awesome. And so I just taught a class to 50 people in Connecticut on Tuesday. I send the supplies, talk about the farm and the fibers and everything like that. And then they're able to do an interactive project. So we actually were able to tie in, just different cultures. I was working with a Jewish community celebrating one of their holidays revolving around trees. So it was really cool to be able to take like this agricultural product and their cultural traditions and kind of combine them together. It was really special. So the virtual platform has actually been really a good pivot for us in what we do. And fiber is really light, so you can send it anywhere, which is awesome. So that kind of leads into what we do also with kids. And so, of course, we do a range of age groups, but I have a real passion for youth and for, helping to raise up kids that are educated about what they're working with and where it comes from. And so I do a lot with schools. We work with the Illinois art educators, Wisconsin art educators, national art educators. I teach at their national conferences and things like that, or have in the past. And so we're trying to, empower a whole generation of art teachers to use fiber in their classrooms and to acknowledge fiber as an actual art form. And so that's been really exciting. We've got so many schools here in the Chicagoland area, but then also, all across the nation actually who are using fibers. I also do artist in residences where I go into schools and create like hands-on collaborative projects with the entire school. I've got 2 of these lined up. I'm so excited to get back into schools again. We've got 2 projects lined up for the spring, and one school's got 600 kids, the other one has 400. Each kid will be able to produce a piece that goes into a larger piece that'll be hung in the school. And so we've done some awesome projects. One of my favorites, just a quick little synopsis here because I know y'all appreciate this. I worked with a school in Portage, Wisconsin, and we used their historical map and we translated that into a felt piece. And in doing this at a middle school level, we were able to actually talk about creating areas of agriculture and areas of urban and kind of the blend between the two, because we were actually creating the city map. So we were talking about our natural, waterways and woodlands and things like that. And then going into, the city, then the suburbs, and then the country, and just all of this like land use planning and everything like that. So it was so cool to be able to incorporate all that together. So, working with schools, working with kids, I love that connection, and seeing their faces light up with the creativity is just, it really drives us. And one of the other aspects, of course, is my own personal art. So I do art wearables and things like that, and art shows. And again, it's just really fun and surprising to be able to tell people that this fiber is actually fiber that we've raised the animals, processed the fiber, the whole process. And so I actually took Best of Fiber in the art show that I was at this fall in Art in the Barn in Barrington. And so just seeing the fiber world, the art world acknowledge, all of this is so exciting. So this here is an ensemble of some pieces that I've done, but I love bringing wool to light in a way that people don't expect. And when they see something and they're like, that's wool, that's sheep, it just is really exciting to me. So that is really just a short synopsis about our story. I hope in the future that we'll keep expanding our outreach and keep on growing the connection between our agriculture and education. That's really what we're about. And like I said, we're celebrating 16 years in March here, so still going strong and still just trying to incorporate new ideas and new creativity into everything that I do. So I definitely encourage you to check out our website. We have a lot of great resources on there. Let's see if we can get back. And including a lot of virtual stuff. We have a page for a virtual open house, so you can actually check out the farm and some of the fun stories and things like that. We also have all the video tutorials on there. So if you're interested in knowing how this all works and everything like that, you can check that out. And just a quick aside, we also have an organic vegetable operation on our farm, Big Rock Organics, that we run and operate. And Esther's Place is the host for our farm stand in the summer. And this year we expanded into doing pick your own, you pick flowers. So we're kind of bringing that operation to Esther's Place as well. So we have a lot of different hats that we wear, but again, it's all just about education and helping people to understand the whole process, hands-on, of where their food and fiber comes from. So thank you for having me, Natasha Lara Lewis here from Esther's Place and Big Rock Organics. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them, or definitely see me afterwards as well.
Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Natasha, for this presentation. I know nothing about wool or fiber, so it's very informative to me. My wife is involved in art, and I have a granddaughter. Of course, since she's my granddaughter, she's very advanced and talented, but she loves artistic things like this. And I was just wondering, the website specifically, or the virtual platform that you have, what is the best way to contact your organization in order to get maybe individual videos or tutorials? And, what do they cost and that type of thing?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, all the information's on our website, email, phone number, you can find all of that there. Really, it's under about $20 or so to get started. It's really not an expensive thing, and that I like keeping a price point accessible.
Yes.
But yeah, you can set up in person or virtual just by contacting me by email or phone number, again, on the website. And we're very flexible and really try to be super helpful. So yeah, just reach out.
Wonderful. Just one other question too, since I know nothing about this, and I'll prove to you that by the ignorance of my question. How much
It's a
wool do you
stupid
get from
question.
a sheep when you shear them?
Yeah, so depending on the size of the sheep, of course, we have smaller sheep. So we tend to get about 8 to 10 pounds of wool, half of which that weight is actually lanolin, and that lanolin being the oil that the sheep produces to keep them nice and dry, and also can be extracted for use in other products. Half that weight gets washed out at washing. So you end up with about 4 pounds or so that's usable. That might not sound a lot, but wool has a lot of volume, not weight. And so it's actually enough for like several sweaters, just to kind of put that into a quantifying number. So yeah, with what we're doing and creating like little felt animals and sculpture and stuff, use about 1/4 ounce for a little critter. So you can actually make the wool stretch quite a long ways. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
will be as you're retired now, You could be raising sheep and then she should get the granddaughter how to do this. And this would be a family job.
There you
Urban
go.
agriculture, right, Stephen? He would be urban. And this is right on your way to the Sandwich Fair.
Yeah.
But don't drive too fast through Big Rock, or you could miss it.
Sugar Grove's really the one to watch out for. They're very vigilant in Sugar
On the
Grove.
north side of the road.
Yeah.
So any other question? Janice Hill would like to say something.
Hi, Janice.
Hi, sorry I'm not there in person, but I definitely wanted to congratulate you and for the fantastic presentation. I've been watching her since she was in high school with this venture, and she truly is an expert. And her depth of knowledge is incredible. And she's such an asset to our county as a next generation farm family. And I also wanted to point out too is that many of you may not know is that their home farm is also one of our protected farms through our farmland protection program, one of our smaller farms. So Natasha and her family contribute in many, many ways to the county. I'm just thrilled for her and everything that she's done. I can't wait to see what happens in the future.
Thank you, Janice. I appreciate that.
Any more questions? Mr. Brown, you could stop on your way to the fair. I will. He's retired also, so. That's quite a network of operations. Should we move on?
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Deborah Allen? I
Good,
was
good
wondering if
morning. Good morning. Natasha, you are a force of nature, and thank you so much for being part of this community. I can't wait to check out your farm and your products, and it's just the imagination to figure out how to spread the word, how to bring it to the schools, how to tie everything together. It's just spectacular. I don't know if this is a waste of your very valuable time, but if you would be willing to come back kind of yearly and tell us what you're up to and your new inventions and your new outreach, you're just a real dynamic, as Janice said, an asset to our community. So thanks so much for coming, and I sure hope we see you often. I'm going to try and come and find you in Big Rock.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No, Mark, are you up? I always wonder what these gentlemen were here for, but I think they're here to hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have Blair put our presentation up. Continuation of discussion on beekeeping, which initiated back in 2016. See some of the gentlemen that were involved in some of those meetings and discussions back then. So we appreciate you being here this morning. So this presentation was also given at Development Committee, as it was back in 2016 when this was a topic for discussion. Before I jump in, I want to preface it with two things. One, I want to thank Steve. That was very coincidental and well-timed for your award and recognition for the work on the pollinator garden. I hope that also helps underscores the county's recognition of the importance of pollinators and beekeeping. As the Agriculture Committee knows, one of the grants that Janice Hill and our team have secured is on working on pollinator habitat. So the county board has a long history of supporting and recognizing the importance of pollinators. So it's a little bit odd for feeling for me to talk about bee regulations. So I'll just jump into it here. So why are we discussing beekeeping? Beekeeping has become increasingly popular in urban and suburban areas, in addition to the important role that they play on our farms. There's some stats from 2016, which we haven't refreshed, but there are over 3,000 beekeepers, almost 25,000 colonies and 4,500 apiaries. And Department of Ag back in 2015 had their records had inspected almost 5,000 bee colonies. there's a delay. So both committees considered beekeeping back in 2016. They had directed staff to work with partners to research and prepare a reasonable approach for Kane County. Staff gathered input from partners. I want to recognize one of our staff members in particular, Spencer Cronin, who attended numerous beekeeping association meetings, discovered there are many in the area that kind of cover parts or all of Kane County or adjacent to Kane County. And also went to some hands-on training himself to help us really dive in and try to understand. We held a beekeeping town hall. This was really well attended. I think some of the gentlemen here were at that meeting and provided good input. We learned a lot about the different levels of beekeeping, from novices who maybe were given a beekeeping kit for Christmas, to people who, in fact, one of our attendees here is award-winning with their honey, and serious beekeepers, and also provide beekeeping services to our local farms, and have some, in cases, have multiple sites. We also heard about some of the challenges that beekeepers face in terms of the risk of losing a colony due to disease or pesticide spray or other things that are challenging. Back then, there were a number of communities in Kane County and in the region that had adopted beekeeping ordinances, which were very detailed. Some of them even included a registration and a licensing fee. And what we heard loud and clear back at that meeting was, please don't over-regulate us. Please don't add unnecessary bureaucracy or fees or things to what we're already doing. Because for the most part, 99.9% of the beekeeping activity is not only necessary and appreciated, but it's done responsibly and done in connected community of beekeeper organizations. So we heard that loud and clear, and that's basically been our experience with Kane County. Now, these are just some of the resources we used back in 2016. And if, like the Development Committee, if the Agriculture Committee wants staff to, again, take a look at what would be reasonable regulations for nuisance level activity, that 0.1% of folks who are where it's an issue, then we would reach out again and appreciate any input from any of our partners that we've worked with in the past and got feedback in the past. So back in 2016, we had staff had come back after that meeting. Number one, we wanted to make sure that the county board continues to encourage a robust, healthy bee population in Kane County. We recommended sort of two buckets or two approaches. One, that the county board could be more involved in education to provide basic facts, address misinformation, and provide resources. One of those outcomes is working with the Farm Bureau on the pollinator garden, but there are other examples of that. We did some stories in Kane County Connects, and that's something we can continue to do more. And then the other would be to consider reasonable and enforceable regulations to address nuisance level issues. So on the education and outreach, there's lots of topics that could be covered: benefits, helping people be aware of the challenges, the opportunities for people who may want to get into beekeeping, the different resources that are available, drift watch reports, beekeeper associations, workshops, farmers markets, have information on the webpage, or consider doing a brochure. And then Kane County Connects is a great resource for sending out information and updating, refreshing past articles that have been done in the past. And there's a variety of groups that do workshops. We learned about what kind of things might be possible to regulate to address nuisance level issues. Probably the top on the list, and probably the most best ability to regulate and measure would be to look at capping the number of apiaries or colonies based on lot size. This is common in a lot of model ordinances that we found. Some of local communities address this. This is just an example chart for your use, but the example that you see here, we basically took the approach of what other model ordinances state for maximum number on a lot per lot size, and then we doubled it to give even more of a springboard so that we're not over-regulating or curtailing responsible beekeeping activity, but that there is a tool in the toolbox if someone is really gone overboard and creating a quality of life issue for neighboring property owners.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question? Brown speaking. Mark, for the benefit of those who may not know, could you explain what a apiary is or a colony?
Boy, I really hesitate to do that in
What
the
was the
presence of
question?
experts.
Well, they're showing a maximum of however many, I can't even pronounce it right, apiaries or colonies. What are those? I mean, people would look at a beehive and say it's a beehive, a box out in somebody's yard, it's a beehive.
Are there any experts in the audience that would help this man? Yes, you,
An apiary is a place you keep beehives, not referred to one particular beehive. You're gonna say how many hives, or apiary should be. Was based on those number of acres, should be how many hives you will give that size of acreage.
So to clarify that, an apiary is just a location, more or less, where beehives would be kept.
Hives, it can be anywhere from 1 hive to 100 hives.
Microphone?
One spot, they're called
Excuse me.
he's in the
Can we get
audience.
him on the
and
microphone?
You want to come step forward and
an apiary, this loud enough? An apiary can consist of 1 beehive or 100 beehives. Okay, it's a place where you just keep bees, okay, beehives. Now, an individual, that bee yard, we call them bee yards more than apiaries, it's a common layman's talk. We basically talk about them as colonies or hives. Can be used for that, but the apiary, of course, is a place where you keep bees. Bees belong to a genus called Apis mellifera, and that's how we get the word apiary from that genus. Any questions on that? So
I see what, this is Brown speaking again. I see where there could be some real confusion in this, the way it's written, because if an apiary is a place where you keep bees, let's say you've got a parcel that's 1 acre. Would 1 acre then be 1 apiary because it's 1 place you're keeping bees? Or would you have 10 different locations on that 1 acre where you're keeping bees, and you could have many different beehives in each one of those locations?
In that 1 location would be considered 1 apiary. And how you've had it stated there, I think is very apropos that that number of acres you have can consist of having more beehives on that acreage. But your yard then is considered 1 apiary.
Thank you.
Mr. Leonard has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the definition then is, what is the difference between a beehive and a colony?
Same thing.
So it's the same thing. So if you can only have 2 apiaries on a 1/4 acre and or 2 colonies, that means you can only have up to 2 beehives on a 1/4 of an acre.
That's right. That's right. But
Okay.
the word, you gotta get rid of that word apiary.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't call hives, each hive is not called an apiary. It's called a beehive or a colony. And that 1 hive in that yard is your apiary.
Yes.
And if you're on how many acres there, if you have 2.5 acres and you have 25 hives, you have 1 apiary with 25 colonies on it. Okay.
And is there a difference when you look at a beehive, Mark, if you wanted to go back a little bit where you actually show the beehive picture. Is there a difference in, I mean, you see some beehives, I'm gonna call them boxes that are, and I know it's a better word than that, but some of them, like in this picture right here, are stacked 3 high. Sometimes you see them stacked 2 high. Sometimes you may see them stacked higher. I'm not sure. Is there a difference in population of bees based on how many of those stacks there are?
On that one beehive, it's still considered one beehive, and we add additional boxes to it to produce the honey that the bees will make. So as the hive grows up with numbers of bees, we add more sections of that hive to produce the honey that the beekeeper then will harvest.
So the more you stack it, the more population of bees there could be.
That's correct.
Kind of like an apartment house.
There you go.
Apartment
I
house.
might introduce myself. I'm Charles Lawrence. I've been keeping bees for 52 years. We moved to Aurora in 1973. I grew up in Wisconsin. We had a couple of hives. We moved them down here to Aurora, out in area out west of Caneville. And I started relating to a lot of farmers who at that time still had some dairy cows that were raising alfalfa. And I found many areas that wanted my bees to be on their property. And so with that in mind, I expanded my bee operation to all rural areas of the county, from all western edge up to Sugar Grove. I still maintain, I'm retired from beekeeping now. I basically still keep 25 hives on 2 locations. But I also worked as a state bee inspector for 15 years with the state of Illinois for 5 counties up here in the Northeast part of the state. So I've had a chance to work with and be with lots of different people from different walks of life who are into beekeeping as a hobby and as a sideline. I became a sideline beekeeper because I taught out here at the vocational center at Caneland High School, Mid Valley Vocational, later we call it Fox Valley Vocational Center. And so I've been in the area, know the county very well. And it is an excellent hobby area to raise bees. The thing is that really kind of irritates me is that some communities are making it almost impossible for a person to raise bees. Kemble County being one of them. I don't know if they've changed their laws, but they want people to register their bees every year. They have to get them licensed. They made it a real legalistic, bureaucratic situation, which it shouldn't be at all. The beekeeper is serving the population, is serving having plants that can be pollinated, home gardens in the cities and villages that we have in our county, as well as those crops. And there's so many farmers today that could do so much more for pollinator crops. Sodded waterways, what a waste for just sod. Why aren't they putting pollinator plants and flowers in those sodded waterways? And the waste areas along watersheds, all growing up in weeds and basically giant ragweed that adds to our health issues in this. But these things should be brought up in farm organizations that farmers should become more involved. There are some that are sympathetic, but there are far few that don't really want to do anything but put grass in those waterways. Well, they may bale a few bales of hay out of them. So I think what was shown there on the screen is very fair for keeping bees. There can be rogue beekeepers that have a small lot and put 20 hives on it. That isn't fair. So I think you have to have some jurisdiction. And Naperville over in DuPage County has a wonderful bee rules in their city government schedule. It was worked on about 5 years ago. I think it's something to look at theirs. I think it's very similar to what was shown here. But you might want to check that out, okay?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very
I'll take on any questions if you have them later.
Well done.
Thank you very much. And if this is a hobby that takes a lot of work, and you got to go to men like that to learn what you're going to do. I've had bees on our farm for 20 years. And one thing about honey, how long does honey last? Forever. It does not spoil. That's pretty cool. It doesn't spoil like everything else. So you can put it in your the Farrells probably put honey in their things for people to eat when they woke up. Yeah, there.
I might say one thing which I didn't say. In the last 15 years, I've been teaching beekeeping courses in Kane County. And they're off at my pet farm park, which is part of the Geneva Park District. And I've taught them in the Wheaton Park District before that. And it's been.
Microphone?
Oh, can you step up to the microphone again?
Oh, we have people that are online listening and they can't
And
hear
we-
you without
and we
the
don't
mic.
want to
Okay,
miss a
I've been
word.
teaching classes for the last 15 years. This will be the first year that my wife and I have retired from it. But we've handled a lot of beekeepers. In those two classes in the classes I've had in Geneva, we've educated over 350 people in beekeeping. And I'd suggest to say that there's at least a third of those that are still keeping bees today. They lose interest, a lot of people have other activities, and they realize beekeeping does take time. If you're going to be a good beekeeper, you have to spend the time that it takes to require it. And we also had field days. We had it's what we call installation day. We get our bees in a crate and we show the people how to put them in a beehive. And then we also had a harvesting day. We went out in August and we took those same beehives we installed in April, and we go out and we show them how to harvest their honey. We take it over to the Peck Farm Park, into the orientation barn, which is the old corn crib, and we show them how to extract the honey and bottle it. So they get a complete rundown the first year of beekeeping on how to go through the whole process. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Janice Hill would like to speak again.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we have the contact information for the speaker that just made the comments. We'd like to coordinate with him because of his deep experience in this field. Just a note, Mark mentioned before, we're working right now on a farming with pollinators project that is grant funded. And also there will be next month an upcoming session at McHenry Community College. And there will be a topic specifically on for farmers on installing pollinator strips as the speaker recommended, and how to fund that using EQIP dollars. So I will bring more information to the committee, and you'll see more information coming out in our media about that upcoming meeting at McHenry Community College. I just wanted to let you know that we are working on that. It's a major topic for all of us to keep our bees and to work with pollinators.
Thank you. So be safe.
Yeah, I have a little more, but first of all, thank you very much. I'm going to have Matt come out, and if you're willing to give us your most current phone number to make sure we have the best information to contact you or to share. Assuming I'm going to be drafting some language after this, it'd be helpful to make sure we have our definitions and things correct. So Matt's going to come out and do that real quickly while I finish up. Some of the other things we learned that other are components of other ordinances that are potential for regulation have to do with hive placement in terms of setbacks from like not being in the front yard of a residential property, or distances from other lot lines, or requirements for flight barrier, those kind of things. Registration is already required with the state of Illinois, but we have no provision in the county code for us to enforce that. So that'd be another option, would be to add that as a requirement, so that we didn't have to depend solely on the state's enforcement. And then suggestion of signage, so that indicating that there's bees on the property, and contact information. These are all options, and we're certainly look for input from our partners, so that we're not doing something that's overly burdensome, but actually is helpful and maybe helps advance beekeeping in the county, as well as give us an ability to deal with extreme beekeeping.
I have a question.
Madam Chairman?
Thank you very much. If the entire small lot, quarter acre lot is an apiary, and there can be 2 hives located at different places on that yard, which is going to be in the backyard or side yard, but not the front yard. That means there has to be a fence, even though it may be out in the rural area. A 6-foot fence is going to be required along that whole yard, or just where the corner of the property or side by the property where the beehives are located. And then, because I'm just curious about that, but then also, why do we have to have signage if the bees don't sting?
They read well.
Why do we, and I think it'd be nice.
And
to
we
have
don't
like-
have to. These are items that are addressed in some ordinances that we found
Okay.
for, so those are just options.
I mean, you see natural gardens, and those are, I said, oh, isn't it lovely that people are doing that in their yards? But yeah, if it could be a cool sign, we grow bees here, but not a warning beehive.
Oh, yeah, no, not as a warning type thing, but as an informational thing. So if somebody had a concern, they knew who to call. In some cases, as you heard from Mr. Lawrence, the beekeeper is not on site. Might be that they have hives located on properties that they don't own or live at. And those are just options. The other concept we're looking at, to your point of, we wouldn't want to require a barrier fence on a property if no one lives next door. There's, vacant property or no one's nearby. But we have other aspects of the county code regulating location for where horses, chickens, rabbits, can be kept in proximity to another residential structure. But most of those distances are 100 feet. So that'd be another option, would be to combine that and only require those if they're within a certain distance from another resident. So if there's no residents there, then those setbacks would not, or a barrier requirement would not apply.
Okay.
So it begins to become effective more in our small lot, tight neighborhoods, which we don't have a whole lot of. But we certainly wouldn't want to have unnecessary setbacks or regulations for lots where, there's no neighbors.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
These are susceptible to some of the chemicals used, and we have to respect them and give them their space. So if somebody had a True Green doing their yard with that stuff and you've smelled it, you'd want them to know that they shouldn't be doing that in certain time of the day, because they could kill the bees or hurt them. It's just informational like that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Brown speaking. I would this is all good information, and I really appreciate the gentleman, educating us. I would suggest that if we're going to continue to have this thought process going on here, that staff work with the gentleman if he'd be willing to do so. When you've got an expert to pull off of and work with, that's where we should start before this board starts to consider anything.
That's what we're doing today. We're flushing the experts out of the community. They can tell us what to do.
Mr. Chairman, Fraz has a comment.
Mr. Fraz?
Yeah, I just want to mention, because it has been brought up, and I don't really know that it's something the county ordinance can address, but in my district, I've had 3 different incidences where colonies of bees have been wiped out by drift spray, from production farms. And in every single case, the beehives were placed on a fence line at the back of somebody's property, literally feet from a, again, a high production, farming situation. And I know one of them, I don't know what the term is, but it was a pollinating contractor, bee contractor, whatever you want to call him. And he had all of his hives wiped out by one spraying incident. I don't know if the Farm Bureau puts out these signs or the bee industry, but I know there's a very well done professional looking sign available that alerts the farmer, the adjacent farmer, to the fact that there's bees there, and to maybe keep a slightly bigger distance than normal from the fence line. But just a comment from somebody who has had some bee issues, and they were all related to drift.
It's called drift wash. You've got to be mindful. We have to respect the bees. Janice, did you still want to speak? Or is that?
No,
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay. I went online to look up bees and I found this site where they were talking about how they store them in Nebraska and then haul them to California to pollinate the almond groves, semi-loads of bees. Really, really cool if you, it's very big business. They haul them at the right time of the day and it's pretty cool. But go online, you can learn a lot more than we can teach you. Matt, do you want to talk about something?
Well, just to wrap up my
Hey,
part.
I'm hurrying you along because I don't want to be like Cliff Sturgis and taking up all the time.
So our purpose this morning was just to get direction from the committee if staff should go ahead and prepare some draft language for nuisance level regulations. And we had that from Development Committee. I sense that we have that concurrence from Ag Committee, as well as a fantastic resource to help us on that. And I think staff has a good idea in terms of what the committee feels about a level of a regulation. So we'll have some draft language for you next month with input from our experts. And I've also offered to get feedback and go to the Farm Bureau board meeting next month also. So thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Craig Bradley would like to speak.
Good morning. I'm a beekeeper of about 12 years. I live in Elgin, unincorporated area, and I'm really small beekeeper. You know, I couldn't get too big. It's just me. So I have between 2 and 5 hives, so I fall within the guidelines. But I wanted to suggest or think about is all, as a recommendation, is there's a difference between 7 frames in a hive and 10 population-wise. So there's more bee peakers now as they get older that switch over to the 7-frame hives because we can lift those better than we can the 10. Big difference. So something to consider when you're doing your review and proposals and so forth. And the other thing would be give the keepers plenty of notice, because most of us lose some hives over the winter and we have to order new bees. And that can range from $150 to $160 a hive. It's a lot of money. And you don't make that much money on honey, especially small beekeepers. It's more of a labor of love than anything. And so give them a chance to find other locations for their hives if they're not able to, if they're over the limit on what your recommendation is. And that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. I
Thank
want
you.
to say before I forget.
Opie, please.
Wait, Cheryl Stratman, it was Craig Bradley that donated the honey for your baskets for the legislators.
Well, thank you. That has been a very popular item in our baskets. Thank you, sir.
Steve?
I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Fraz's comments. I did a quick search. I know that we, through the King County Farmer, have published information previously on Drift Watch. A quick search on my phone for signing took me to a site called Field Watch that has a variety of different signs available through Drift Watch for specialty crops and sensitive crops, organic beehives, etc. I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that the Farm Bureau would be happy to order those for beekeepers, for specialty crop growers. I'm just not sure if we need to be a registered member or a beekeeper in order to do that, but possibly we could work through one of the local beekeepers to have a supply of those available for growers and for beekeepers for the 2022 season.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait a second, Mr. Caius. You want to say something, sir?
Well, the word Drift Watch has been replaced by Field Watch now. Signs cost about $15 or $20 a piece. I have them on all my sites. the crop dusters that spray on farms, they watch for those signs. I'm registered, GPS coordinates are registered with them when they know where my bees are, because my bees are registered with the state of Illinois Department of Apiary Protection. And so they know those sites. The people that don't honor them are the mosquito abatement companies. They go in full-handed and spray right up to your hives. Whereas crop sprayers, if they know there's hives in an area, they shut their spray rigs down. Of course, aerial spraying, they can't do that, but on ground application, they can shut those spray heads down when they get near those beehives, which are usually along a fence row. But it would be an excellent idea. Farmers would be interested in, those that are interested in saving pollinators would put some of those signs up on their farm and then register those sites as to the GPS coordinates, so that those, anybody coming in by aerial spraying will know where they are, or field watch spray, ground spraying application. Any questions on that? If that could be something that could be done, I know it's a little expensive to put those signs up, but I think it would really be well worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Caius would like to speak.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, I think Kopi actually asked first.
Well, Kopi could go first.
Thank you very much. On behalf of this committee, what I understand a pertinent portion of this discussion was in regarding policy, which Mr. Van Kerkhoff was alluding to, was the and probably a case question would be in regards to Mr. Brown's comments that we have a problem defining the size of a bee operation, and I think that's a key aspect to creating policy. And if we could get that definition and agree on a definition of size and place, that would be great. Thank you for your time.
Now, Mr. Caius.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is all really great discussion, very
Yes,
interesting.
speak a little better, louder.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's all a very good discussion, very interesting. It seems, and it seems to me that there's two things that are happening. One is protecting the people from the bees for regulation, and the other is protecting the bees from the people. As far as protecting the people from the bees, now my understanding from our last committee meeting, it was there were only, maybe Mr. Van Kerkhoff can elaborate on that. There was how many incidents a year in the county that you were aware of that the bees were affecting the people?
We get only one or two complaints per year.
So if that's the case, we should be very, very careful about, or we should be very moderate about how we want to regulate the bees, I think. With just one or two occurrences a year, we really don't want to go overboard and put a big burden. We want to promote the bees. Second is protecting the bees from the people. And I suggest the bees have to get the short end of the stick. I'm sure there's a lot more hives killed than people affected by the bees. So I think we should be promoting as much as we can the things that don't restrict the bees and provide pollinators an adequate place in our county to do the good job that they want to do in their lifestyle. Thank you.
Okay, now can we move to Matt? Matt has been waiting here. What do you want to talk about, Matt?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to just briefly summarize. Could I grab the slide? Blair is going to bring up our slides. There we go. I recently had the opportunity to virtually attend the Illinois Specialty Growers Annual Conference last week. This is a conference organized every year by the Growers Association in partnership with the Illinois Farm Bureau, and it's really intended as, you know, as a sharing, as a learning opportunity for growers, which are the primary intended audience. But there are a number of topics addressed in this session or in this conference every year that are relevant to policymakers as well. And so it's always, when possible, a good opportunity for, for us as staff to kind of keep up to date on a lot of the issues that growers are dealing with. So this is just a quick summary of the different categories that were addressed at the session. You see agritourism, business development, and a number of sessions obviously specific to growers on specific types of products that are grown. But I also want to point out that that urban agriculture was a featured topic, and this very much coincides with the item that Steve shared, that the Farm Bureau recently acknowledged urban agriculture as an important policy topic and one worthy of attention. And so in attending this conference, I did make a point of listening to a couple of the sessions on urban agriculture, and I did just want to share some of those briefly with you to kind of give a sense of what different urban agriculture programs can look like. This program is based in Urbana, Illinois. It's called Sola Gratia Farm. It was launched by St. Matthew Lutheran Church, and it originally started on land that was owned and operated by the church, used to grow corn and soybeans. And the corn and soybeans that was grown was sold to fund food security issues, food security programs around the world. But they eventually realized that there were food access and food security needs in their own community. So they decided that they would start using this land to grow food for their community members. So since it started, they have 18 people employed there. They grow year round with high tunnels. They have an at-risk youth employment program. So it's really, I want to emphasize that a lot of these programs are much more than just, growing food. They have, a number of programs that engage and provide important benefits for the communities that they serve. And this is another program that's been around for about 30 years, and it's based in Chicago. It's called the Eden Place Farm. It's located on the south side, just adjacent to I-90 in the Fuller Park neighborhood. And the site where this garden operates was a former trucking dump site. So it had a number of brownfield issues. And, when this was started, there was just a ton of work that went into removing old concrete and debris from this site. And now it's the entire property is 6 acres, which includes a farm learning center where, classes are able to come and do field trips and learn about food growing and learning about nature. And one of the benefits of this program for the community was that the development organization that started this program was able to attract new housing developers to this community, which hadn't seen new housing development in a 37-year period. And so they were able to, see new homes built, in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And it had the benefit of improving home values for houses in this neighborhood. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture does recognize urban agriculture. There's really no formal definition of what that is. I just wanted to share one description shared by an author that urban agriculture, urban farming, or urban gardening is the practice of cultivating, processing, and distributing food in or around urban areas. So fairly straightforward. And then USDA kind of expands on that, stating that it allows for, the development of a variety of environmental, economic, and social benefits to surrounding communities. So I think that's really what I want to emphasize is that, these benefits are wide-reaching and go much beyond just the food that is produced on these urban farms. And here in Kane County, we are fortunate to have a number of urban farms. This isn't a comprehensive list, but I just wanted to highlight a few that completed our recent farm operators survey last year. Weathered Ways Farm, in addition to being an urban area farm, is also an incubator for other small startup farm businesses. One of those is an aquaponics business. So they use fish and aquatic life to grow produce. And Bluff City Gardens operates in Elgin. This could be the smallest farm in Kane County. It's only about 1/4 of an acre. So they're very intensive in their growing activity. They produce a number of value-added and health products in addition to the produce that they grow. And lastly, Charity Blooms Farm is it's a partner with the Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry in Aurora. So the farm supplies that pantry with food, and they have their own market stand for providing food to the residents. So there's really a diverse. There's really no one model of what an urban farm looks like. So I just kind of wanted to give a snapshot of that and just share what some of the urban farms in Kane County look like. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I know in Chicago, there are a number of old manufacturing buildings that have been retrofitted into urban farms. Do we have anything like that here? Do we have any restrictions on that, zoning restrictions to allow that to happen?
Well, in terms of the county's well, to answer the first part of your question, I know there was, I don't think they're in operation now, but there was an indoor farm called The Farm operated in Aurora a few years ago. I know it was funded by the Triple Threat Mentoring Organization. I'm not sure if they're in operation anymore. I know there's another indoor program. I forget the name of it, but it's a wildlife refuge up near the Dundee area. But in terms of, I guess in terms of restrictions on, acreage or zoning, I don't know, maybe Mark, you could speak to that a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, sure. If, we can get into it more depth at some time also, but generally the difference for indoor farming operations in a municipality are different than for the unincorporated area. The unincorporated area, our jurisdiction, there's exemptions to ordinances for farmers for farming and agricultural activities. So that would include their outdoor growing, includes their buildings, instructions, construction, and the indoor uses of those buildings. So in the unincorporated area, indoor growing on buildings in a parcel more than 5 acres would be underneath that agricultural exemption. If it was less than 5 acres, or if it was in a municipality, they may have to meet all the codes and ordinances of the municipality for that indoor production. So it really varies depending on where their location might be.
Steve Arnold.
To Madam Chairman's question, I do know that we have a new member of our association that is interested in indoor farming and vertical gardens. Not been able to establish contact with him yet to have any idea of the scale or scope. And I will be referring that to Mr. Tansley.
It seems to me a way, especially in our weather, that fresh produce can be produced then locally sourced food, regardless of the weather. And I would applaud that. Nothing like having a fresh tomato in January that you buy at your local store that's not coming from out of state or out of the country.
All right. Mighty Vines is a place that's in Rochelle, and they grow tomatoes like that. Mrs. Kenyon likes them because they're no pesticides or anything on them. Is there anything else to talk about, to add? Now, we really run over today. This is quite concerning, but it was interesting subjects, very interesting. So is there any new business? Is there a motion to put reports on file?
Leonard moves.
Brown second. Want to make them call a roll? Yeah, call the roll.
Brown,
Yes.
Fraz,
Fraz, yes.
Copy,
Copy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Allen,
Alan, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes. Now we need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Brown or?
Brown
Mr.
moves.
Brown moves to adjourn.
Leonard seconds.